What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the special edition Bandwidth and Banter known as Legacy of Loremasters. I'm your host, Stormy D, and that over there is my Goblin Game Girl, who is the co-host of Bandwidth and Banter, and we're super stoked about tonight. It's been a while since we've had a Legacy of Loremasters, and it's going to be a treat. Do you remember who we had on for Legacy of Loremasters last time? I'm having a brain fart moment about that. I can see in her eyes that she is too. I put her on the spot. I'm sorry.
Iltacine.
Huh? Oh, Iltacine, of course. God, how could I forgot? I get because it's been a while. Like I somehow we skipped a month, right? I think. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe it's been a whole month. But Iltacine was amazing, and look forward to chatting with him and figuring out how we could play with him sometime in the future. Speaking of amazing, and this is also another person who's been on Bandwidth and Banter before. Tonight for Legacy of Loremasters, we're going to have the incredible and incomparable SirVivalistGaming on the show. So what do you think, Druid? Are you excited about tonight?
Yes.
Yeah, hell yeah. Yeah, we get to talk shop about D&D with a fellow DM and hear his DM style and how he crafts worlds and things, and look forward to hearing from him. So let's do that right now. No more dallying about. Let's have him on the show. Here he is. SirVivalistGaming, please reintroduce yourself, sir.
Hello, it is a pleasure to be back on a Bandwidth with the banter. Oh my god, first stutter, first sentence. I love it. But yes, with Legacy of the Loremasters, I am so excited to talk about some D&D stuff today.
Awesome.
So hype.
Yeah, it's a treat to have you. I appreciate you. And by the way, one more time, thank you for playing some Magic this afternoon with me. That was a lot of fun, and I hope we get to do it again sometime, for sure.
New Wednesday morning stream?
Do what?
New Wednesday morning stream or new Thursday morning stream for?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to commit to anything just yet.
I know. I'm just being an
I mean, the Thursday morning thing should be like, I was going to do the Witcher workout today, but unfortunately, I had not pre-planned, and the mics and the mouse weren't charged, and so I'm like, okay, well. Next week.
Magic the Gathering.
Yeah.
Anyways,
we're here to talk about D&D, not Magic the Gathering. The granddaddy of all hobbies, I think, personally. of all fantasy hobbies, I should say. I should specify. Yeah. Dungeons and Dragons. So, my good man, SirVivalistGaming, as a fellow DM, we're here to hear about your DM experiences. First, tell us, though, your Dungeons and Dragons origin story. How did you get into the hobby? Spare no details.
Spare no details, please.
Well, it's the route of experiencing one thing after another. So, like, you fall into something as simple as Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh! You start watching the show, you start playing a game, and that's what happened. I played Yu-Gi-Oh! I started to ask more questions about Magic the Gathering. That took me to going to shops. I started actively getting into D&D minis. And this is something that would have been amazing to have as a DM, because there is a lot of awesome figurines that you can work with on the table for display and just for that little extra kick. But as a tabletop game, it was very unique to me. I felt very involved. It was my first taste of the heavy-duty tactics. And one time I got so sucked into it, I was into the closing hours of the shop. And all these D&D people that I knew from playing different games, and they started forming around the table, setting up their little bar area, and it was session 1 for them. So I was not any idea what was going on whatsoever. I'm just that little kid peeking his head through the crowd, and they started doing their thing, and I was watching it, and I was so enthralled by what was going on and how the story was progressed. And I remember they were in a bar, they got into a fight, the bar ended up being on fire, they ended up killing the person they were supposed to talk to, found the other person on the road. That person they left on the road and ended up getting ambushed on the way back, and that's when I had to go because it was getting way too late. But it was such like a deep story that as a kid I still remember that, and my memory sucks.
That is amazing. And you said you were a kid. Like, how old do you think you were?
I was probably around 12, around that, maybe even no, I was probably even younger than that. I was probably like 10.
Wow, that's awesome. So when did you start actually playing after that first taste of it, that first tease?
So after experiencing that, I didn't even know how to really ask questions or where to begin. I was in the minis, I was playing a million other things, but my true origin of starting a character and getting into D&D myself was in 3.5. It was like a wizard popped out of the woods one day with a staff, and he just sat on a couch. And if I had to put that into the words of a normal person, one of my friend's stepdads was a real deep DM. And he just one day was like, hey, you guys want to play D&D? And I'm like, yeah, I want to play. He was like, I want to play. And then we had a small group of people. We had his sister, him, and me. And we just played out our characters. And he was an amazing DM. He's the kind of person who put a lot of thought into things. Like the kind of person, I feel like some of the best DMs have that kind of experience in life, not just in dungeon nearing and doing all the mastering and puppeteering, because there's like so much thought that goes into being a DM. Like there's so much depth to it.
Right,
Oh,
right.
man.
And so, like your first time playing, did you play first or DM first?
Oh, it was that was playing. I was a lowly player at that point. I had no idea what was happening. I just finished beating Dragon Age Origins, and I wanted to recreate the noble dwarf house character that I made, Valorn Adukin.
Oh, that's funny. So when did you, as that progressed, you were a player, how long were you a player? And tell us about your first time as a DM. How did that come to be?
Well, I started going through like the first book I ever had was 4th edition. So I never had the 3rd edition book. I wasn't at the point of downloading files and figuring all that out. But the first book I ever got was 4th edition. And then learning to make the characters kind of got me into the idea of what's happening behind the scenes, like diving into it more in depth than I did. I had the Dungeons Master's Manual, the Monsters Manual, and the regular player's handbook. So I had all three, and I'm like, okay, I'm just reading. And I was like, hey, you guys want to play? Trying to convince one of my friends just to mess around and role play in the room when we're bored or whatever. And it turned into something else. Like I started to get people into a story that I didn't even know what was happening. And like my one friend, me and his character went on for a while, and other people would join in and play with us. And most of the time I got to play as a player for the most part. Like I went from group to group. I got to experience so many different styles, so many different editions. And then I finally hit my stride where I was like, I want to DM. I want to use my ability to be creative to make this world. And I did. I started getting deeper into the books. I started talking to friends that I knew were deep into Dungeons and Dragons themselves. And I evolved into this.
And how old were you when you first made that transition from a player to a DM?
It was probably around 18. So I spent a good 8 years messing around, maybe teasing at being a DM, playing as a player. So
Right on.
a long time building it up.
Gotcha. And so now, do you have a current group that you're DMing?
Not anymore. I actually had a really close group after we finished basic training in the Army. So like I had a bunch of people were like, okay, we're going to message after. And we did. We connected. He connected us to other friends. We did D&D. We did Mutants and Masterminds. We did, I can't even remember what the space one is called, but we did this like action movie space tabletop RPG, and it was actually pretty good. It was good stories,
Yeah.
Was it Spelljammer
And we
or
rotated.
something else?
No. Oh, it's like right on the tip of my tongue. I can't think of what it's called, and my buddy's gonna laugh at me for forgetting because I always forgot.
Right on. Thanks for
That's
sharing
so
that
beautiful.
bit of history about you. And
Heck yeah.
before we get on to her question, I do want to. I intend that you find another group to DM soon.
I hope. You never know. Life's crazy.
Mhm.
Life is crazy, but you never know. How do you go about crafting a campaign story from scratch? What's your method? How do you go about that?
For me, in the way I like to run my stories, it's the most important part of everything. So, like any story, there has to be cause, attachment, there has to be a lot of thought that goes into things, but the main points and what creates everything on the in between, because that's the players. I don't hold the in between at all. I drop pieces in there to make things exciting, to make things happen that maybe I wasn't even planning on doing. So, okay, I'm going to take a step back here.
Perfect.
The main things is the beginning and the end. What do you want to happen at the end? What do you want to happen in the beginning? And I'm sure a lot of people work that way, but I can never streamline. I refuse in all my essence to do that. I have to let my players make the story happen. And because that's what D&D is to me. It's us creating a story together. I'm giving you a platform. I'm letting you know through my own expression how you're affecting the world, and the pieces that I put into play are affecting you. And like it's very delicate putting together something that people are going to enjoy, that's exciting, that even possibly draws in emotion. And like I said, when I made a world before, one of the main concepts I used was life and death. So life and death is a very deep concept for people. And to get the players started, I took away life. So I made life stop happening. So all these new babies, animals, they stop being born, even plants. And with life being dissipated, then it opens a story for what comes next. And that makes people ask questions. That gets people curious. It makes people want to know more and dive deeper. And then the rest is you. You make the story happen.
That is crazy. When it comes to like when it comes to crafting the story, you have your start point, you have your end point, and then the in between is players. How do you go about crafting the actual like world itself? What inspires you? How do you go about like crafting the actual physical plane that the story is taking place on?
Well, let's break it down to Minecraft. It's like when you jump into a world of Minecraft, you get this big open blank slate with all these resources that you can slowly start to collect and shape into your own vision. And that's exactly what I try to do. I start with something small. I get inspired by things I know from all journeys through stories that I've read, shows that I watch, people that I talk to. And I always put a creative, spicy twist. If I ever am inspired by somebody else or something else, I want to make it unique. I never want to feel like I'm taking something that somebody else has and like running with that just as it is. I want to take what you have and grow on it, and I hope people can do that with me too, and take what I'm putting out there and then make it better, you know. And even if you like want to use it, I have no problem with that. It's just for me, I always want that next step up, and that's what I'm trying to do. So
Right,
I
because
love
it's a
it.
reciprocal process between you and the players. It's how you all craft a fun experience. It's together, not not someone lording over them. It's not an us versus them kind of thing. It's a us versus the DM with the players, us versus the what he's put in place, he or she has put in place. I love it.
Yeah.
So, survivalist gaming, going down this kind of road a little bit deeper, what's your DM style for designing interesting NPCs?
So a lot of what goes into the story goes into what happens in an NPC as well. I feel like And NPCs are quite often born in the moment, and that's a secret that DMs don't often share. Because like you'll have a character in mind, somebody that's gonna give a speech, somebody who's not really supposed to be that important, but just because you gave them that little bit of an accent where they're like, "Oh, don't you know? We're gonna go get some schnitzel after the party," and then like everyone's in love with that character now. So now they've somehow been given a new life. So you take that as a kernel, you grow on it, and make something deeper. And that's just one example. There's a million and one ways to make an NPC. It's like that's what I like when I say I make a reactive world. I want you to have all the options, and I just envision something small and expanding. What would I think would be there? What would be beyond what I could think could be there? And then I put that there. And whatever, however the players interact with it, however the world decides it wants to spit out an NPC, I'm like, all right, we're gonna roll with it. This is a mushroom headed. We're gonna be like, Pipsy, Pipsy, ha ha ha, like whatever, like.
Right on, right on.
Captain Dan Bruno at the gate.
Dan, yeah, exactly. That's a perfect example. Captain Dan Bruno. But Captain Dan.
But Captain, don't you want to come hang out with us? Okay, we're pretty cool and everything.
Right on.
Evelyn Hooray is very, very good at singing and everything. I think you would very much love it.
And he did. Before all the adventures were just kind of like, you know, just little like he was like, oh well, they're doing their job, they're exploring, they're doing stuff that I don't want to do. So he was happy with that. But then you guys like opened up a different side to him, and that's exactly what Survivalist Gaming is talking about, is how the players will run with a character in ways that you as a DM didn't expect, and so then you just got to run with them, and where they take you makes it all the more fun.
Do you, Survivalist, do you have an NPC that you were like, just a guy, but everybody was like, that's our guy?
Yeah. And also tell us about a favorite NPC that you've made. I want to hear both of these.
Okay.
Oh no.
My favorite NPC, hands down. I was playing Mutants and Masterminds, and there was like, I don't even, a superhero organization, and they were slowly being eliminated. So I was like, what's a character I can make that's so overpowered but not overpowered at all? So I'm like, all right, we're gonna make a cartoon detective, and I ran with it so hard. I'm like, all right. Well, see, we're gonna hunt down these baddies. We're gonna I had whole scripts written out for this guy, and like I had so much fun with it. The players, they loved this dude. Like he was a little bit like scratchety. He did what he wanted, but the players just were like, this guy's awesome. We love everything. I had perfect reaction cartoon effects that made it so funny. Good times. Yeah, I don't even remember what the other question is. I'm sorry.
No.
It's okay. Did you NPC where you were like, this is just a guy that they're not going to pay attention to, and that became the guy that everybody loved?
Yes, there is always that character, and I was actually during the Life and Death campaign. There at the top of the hill was an encampment. It was mostly just wanderers. This is where everyone ended up because it had like the most scope. It was away from a lot of things that would attack them, all that kind of stuff.
So like
and
refugees?
They ended up there. Yeah, exactly. It was the soul. It's like the Soul Cairn, except this was like their little hovel away from that.
Gotcha.
And so they get to this location, and there's this merchant, and they just started like dealing with this merchant, and this merchant was a pain in the butt, like on purpose pain in the butt in every way that he could. So, and then they were like, no, you're going to trade with us. And he's like, no, I'm not going to. He was like, but we have everything you want. He's like, I don't like, I'm not giving you what I want. So they're like, all right, you know what? We're gonna take you with us until you give us what we want. So they just they packed up all his things, they picked him up, and they took him with them for a while. And then eventually he was like, oh, well, I can see you mean business. And then he would be like everywhere. He would just be that merchant that popped up all the time, and then they fell in love with him. So it's
That's
good
cool.
times.
That's so good.
That's awesome, brother.
Oh my goodness. Um how do you go about crafting interesting encounters? So like shoot person that puts them onto a quest, or even like when it comes to like setting up like a battle encounter, like how do you go about crafting such things, the encounters, the moments that the players have choices?
I feel like if you make a good story, the choices become difficult in their own. So, like, as the story evolves, you kind of see the characters' inhibitions, what they want, what they're after, and you can kind of twist up little things, little details that can make the story more interesting. You can add in plot devices, you can throw in ambushes. There's a million things you can do. But
Mhm.
one of the most difficult things when you're DMing is making combat encounters that are challenging and at the same time not that they're not expected, but it gets people alert when they don't know how to immediately respond to something. And as a DM, I feel like, and I actually asked this question. It was It's Line. Is that how you say it? The person from Legacy of the Loremaster before me.
Oh,
Oh,
Iltacine.
Iltacine, yeah.
Iltacine. There you go. So I was asking him about he did his creatures, and I asked that because I always like to throw twists into my creatures, like
Mhm.
little things that you wouldn't expect from something that you think you know everything about.
Right.
Mhm.
And just because it makes it exciting, but I don't do that all the time.
Sure.
I make it exciting. Like a group of kobolds is just going to be a group of kobolds most of the time. Like,
There's always that
so
one.
yeah, there's always that one. You never know. Like, study, ask questions. I like to make. I always present opportunities for players to learn more and to affect encounters. So if I know, like, for sure that something's going to happen, like I know an encounter is going to take place, I could put in tons of options where the players can talk to people and get reinforcements, knock out troops early, maybe negotiate something and have an item that would make them not want to fight at all. So, like, there's always more options.
Indeed. And can you give us an example of one of your favorite encounters that you crafted?
When I started DMing for A Song of Ice and Fire, which was a role-playing tabletop game. I actually have the book right here. I'm gonna do a little peeksy here.
That's cool.
Glorious Baratheon and Targaryen battle. So when I made that, the encounters that the characters had became much more intense. It felt like everything was life or death. Everything was an opportunity or a missed opportunity.
Mhm.
So, like, everywhere you went, something was happening and very exciting. And I remember because at first it was just me and my buddy, and I made a character, a real player character to play beside him. And my character was essentially his butler. I was taking care of him, making sure everything was okay. I was that sneaky guy in the hood that was always watching in the background. And my guy ended up getting kidnapped. So, like, taken off into the woods. So he had a choice, and I can't remember exactly how the choice played out, but he ended up hunting me down. And that turned into a whole thing, and it was so much fun. Like, he was like, "What happened? How did you get kidnapped?" I'm like, "I don't know." Like, if I knew, I wouldn't have been kidnapped.
Yeah. That's funny.
That is so good.
So, as a DM, I'm sure you've experienced where, well, maybe not. I don't know. Have you ever experienced where you were on a limited time schedule, and so you had to, pace things along? What sort of methods do you use to handle pacing in both story and just to be able to accomplish what you want during a session before everybody has to stop for the night.
So you're talking about the pacing of the story, right? Like how it progresses along with the players?
Yeah, the story or even just the session. You know, how do you handle pacing issues during a session? If, like, for example, do you just let the players ramble completely, or like if you want to accomplish a certain stuff by the end of the night, do you like nudge them in some ways, or do you are you completely hands off? What sort of pacing style are you as a DM?
I am hands off.
Okay.
I like when I make my encounters, I put a lot of thought, like before a session. I'm one of those people who procrastinates and then crashes everything in, but that means it's fresh. So I'm ready to go. And I never have too much issue propelling forward the story, because the story that I've already put in place has so much going on. There's options and there's storylines. It's not just, there is a lot of make your own decisions. You are going where you want. You're talking to who you want. You're getting into fights or not getting into fights, however you play it. But there will be points where players are like, I'm not sure what to do next. And like, it's bound to happen. And like, I've had a few moments where something like that happens. And it's good to have NPCs that can communicate thoughts in a way that's not going to be immersion breaking, ways that's not going to overload like or overtell about your story or your plans or things. It's an insight into the world. So having that open option to talk to your players, not just something so simple, like something like the voice of God reaches down and blesses you with the knowledge that you will be under attack within this week. Like something that feels like, oh, we've known this guy, he knows what's going on over there, so he's gonna give us some information.
Very cool.
Fun.
Very cool.
Fun.
Well, so before that's the main questions that the main topics of conversation that we have. But is there any sort of, before we move on to open forum questions? And this is a completely open forum at this point. From the audience, we can get questions from them. We probably have some additional questions we want to ask you. But if you want to ask us questions, you're of course open to as well. So, but before we do, is there like what's your philosophy of Dungeons and Dragons? For you and the players, and what's your perspective on it as a whole?
The DM is the painter and the players are the colors. So like without either or, nothing exists. So like you work together to make this image, but sometimes things are going to happen. It's going to get messy. Just enjoy the ride. And as Bob Ross would say, a beautiful non-mistake. And I brutalized it. I couldn't remember how he said it, and I didn't want to screw it up even more, so I just went.
No, that's fine. That's fine. That's
there's
great.
No mistakes. There's happy little accidents.
Happy little accidents. Thank you. That's what I was looking for.
I got you.
Mm-hmm.
Got you. That's beautiful. I love that.
Yeah, Starkey's a big fan of Bob Ross too, which is funny. All right.
Okay.
So, folks in the audience, we got questions.
Can I hit you first?
Sure. Yes. And then I want this first one.
All right. I have questions on the back line, but I got one. So, as a DM, do you find you have a particular area that you struggle with? And for example, like for me, I have a hard time bending certain ways as a DM. Like I have a very harsh reality type of world. Like I want you to play your story, but if your story ends up killing you, that's you. And I'm also I try to be very generous with that. But at the same time, I feel like that brutality it can be off-putting to people, and I know that. But at the same time, there are people who can appreciate it. I want to try to work on finding a happy balance with that. So,
can I answer?
Yeah, please do, because I'm not sure I quite understand the question. So maybe you'll.
So I missed the question part, but I want to touch on my perspective of your DM style. You know, you like the more harsher reality thing, right? And that could be off-putting for some people. But I think that's like a part of the session 0 that you discuss that with people and you go, this is just basic ground rules. This is how I DM. This is how it's going to go. This is all of the things.
Right.
And if you do something dumb and you die, sorry. Like,
see, I think that it's just okay. Just to touch that is my perspective. Is death isn't the end of the story. It's a part of the story.
yeah.
And it adds to it. Like I
Mhm.
never had a problem with the character dying as long as it made sense. You know, you made a mistake, you took on a fight too strong, something like that.
I desperately want one of my characters to die where it rips the heart and soul out of people, and I just want to, and because I also want to feel the pain and loss of having a D&D character die, right? Because like I haven't yet. That's going to be a brand new experience for me. Like I want to have a beloved character fall and just have everybody cry. Like I want to see tears well up in my husband's face because that's the kind of stuff that writes the story. You know, like that.
It can.
Those are
It
the
can.
emotional,
Sure. Yeah.
like those are like emotional moments that people remember, right?
Mhm.
Like, because I was watching you know, we were watching D&D before I even had the chance to start playing. We were watching Erois, Adventures of Erois, and they had a character die, and that moment was probably one of the most impactful moments that I've witnessed in like a D&D story. And I was just like, whoa! They ended up resurrecting him and the story went on and blah, blah, blah. But like that character death was just like, holy fuck, had goosebumps. We talked about it forever. It was crazy. But I don't know. That's just my personal thoughts as a player. Like, one day my character will die. I will be sadder than everybody else. And I'm going to hate myself for saying this now in the moment. But I'm going to talk about it forever and ever, right? Which is a part of the story process.
So I think I understand his question more now, and it can be. It really depends. That partially depends, like you said, on your DM style, right? And what sort of story you're crafting, and what sort of players that you have, and what you've discussed, like she said, in session 0. Like sometimes it's a matter of finding your right group, finding a group of people that mesh with your DM style and their play style, because sometimes that won't work. I mean, I've been doing this for 40 plus years, and I've DM'd lots of different groups and played in lots of different groups, and some of them I didn't gel with, and vice versa, and that's okay. It's not a bad thing. Like it just is what it is, and you eventually just keep working until you find a group that you vibe with and they vibe with you. And as long as, like she said, you make it clear where you stand from the beginning, then I'm pretty sure that anybody who plays with you would enjoy the experience. So
I think I just really chase that feeling of immersion, and
Mhm.
I feel like when players know that they can't die or like their decisions have almost less impact, and that's the same thing for like driving a story down a linear path. I feel like when I'm doing that, it takes away a part of what I get as a storyteller that makes it special for the players to experience. So like, and that's a deep immersion I get, and that's where Druid's talking about. You get a lot of emotions because you are there and you're like, I'm gonna make it out of it. Everything's fine, and then like you're like, I did something silly, and oh, I'm dead. It's excitement, it's sadness, it's life experience, and D&D is all the beautiful fantasy emotions. I love it all.
I would say that for some DMs, like there's a balance there though, right? Because there's some DMs when you say that you're pretty hardcore realistic, but it also sounds like to me from listening to you and getting to know you better that you're not like super hardcore. You're not like so far to the realism side of things that, you know, from the way you described it, usually it's some sort of really poor player choice that might get somebody killed, as opposed to there are some DMs who are so hardcore with the realism that a random die roll will get somebody killed. And I, you know, I sense and feel that the same thing that I kind of feel for you, that I agree with. And tell me if I'm wrong, that you try not to make that the reason why somebody dies. They just randomly die in a battle because of some really bad rolls or something. You know, not, you know, again, if they do something stupid, that's one thing. You know, sometimes that's part of the experience too. But I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
For the most part, we're on the same line. I'm always fair, 100%. Like,
Sure.
I don't want to be anything less than that. Like,
Right.
if I'm taking away your option to win, I feel like that makes me a bad DM. Like, that does nothing for you, does nothing for me. Like, it's that freedom, the expression. But like you're saying, when dice rolls don't always work out, that's, as far as I consider it, a part of fate. And like, sometimes it will take a couple of dice rolls. Sometimes it is just an unlucky dice roll that will put an end to a character. And I don't know how I feel about that. It really depends on the situation of the story, you know? Like, if they're in a fight with bandits on the side of the street and it wasn't supposed to be a part of the story, and they like get crit 4 times in a row, I'm probably going to make some sort of an exception that's pretty dang insanely lucky. Or if I'm, you know, like, maybe that's it. It's hard sometimes to make that call for me personally. That's why I said that's one of the things I struggle with.
Right.
I don't have the brain to be a DM. I think I'm a forever player to challenge the DMs on all of the things. I think that's my purpose in D&D, is to challenge the DMs with my ridiculousness.
So why do you think you're a forever player and not a DM? Why do you say that?
What, for one, I know that I have a really hard time with because I have to think about a character for a while. You know, and I would really struggle with like NPCs and all that kind of stuff. And you know,
I understand. I mean, I get it. It's not for everyone. Like some folks don't want to DM because it's not for them. And some folks don't want to play because they actually prefer DMing. And then I've even met some folks that just Dungeons and Dragons in general wasn't for them. And that's okay too, you know. If we all liked all the exact same things 100% of the time, then, you know, as consumerist as human beings are, those things would be gone in a short order, right?
Yeah.
So
and there's other tabletop systems out there. There's way more than just D&D. There's so much, and that's why I was going to say, Druid, if you ever decide you wanted to dip your druidic fingers into DMing, there's one you probably even heard of called Roots.
Yes.
Yeah, come on, tell me you wouldn't have a good time DMing a colony of squirrels, like
that does sound like something she could do and enjoy doing. Yeah,
brilliant.
All right, so you get the first question now, Druid.
I do. So this is not so much a question. I've had this kind of sitting in the back burner ever since we knew that you were scheduled for Legacy of Loremaster. You put this in a chat in a previous Legacy of Loremaster, and I just wanted you to elaborate on it because I was curious. In chat, you said, I think paladins, warlocks, and clerics have always been very powerful choices for characters. The aspect of gods, I believe, keep the power balance. And then you followed up with gods over oaths all day for paladins. Can you just elaborate on those points for me?
Yeah, I agree. I'm curious about that.
Well, first off, I'm going to start with the basic balance of power. When you got mortal, and then you got gods. So like, gods imbuing mortals with power brings them up to a level that should be beyond the average person. There's Like, even if you just consider a level 1 warlock with the knowledge we know, Eldritch Blast scares people all the way up to high levels. It's just like bang. And that's part of being a warlock. It comes with the pact. It comes with choices you have to make. But as a DM, I've always loved when a player chooses those, because it gives me so much more. I get an extra character that I get to like have fun with that character and kind of push and shove and pull and like do
Yeah.
all that fun stuff.
Give them
But
choices.
5th edition, they went more into the oaths, right? Like, it's more so you dedicate yourself to an oath, and then as long as you follow that oath, you're doing fine. And I feel like I haven't dived into 5th edition as much as I have for most, but I know enough to say that taking away gods takes away a lot from the players, the DMs. It takes away a lot of, well, I don't want to say it takes away, where the powers that would be granted are super strong. Paladins have always been top tier for strength. It's just one of those things because they're a tank, they're a fighter, they're a healer. They can do magic. They have it all. And a warlock has the same ability as a mage. Once they transcend to super levels, they just become these like beings of insane power. And you could say that about most classes, but particularly with mages, sorcerers, and warlocks. They just evolve into crazy things.
Yeah. Love it.
Gotcha. So what did you mean by gods over oaths for paladins?
So if you abandon your gods, and like this is how I was taught, if you like don't follow the path that your god sets upon you, they would interfere with your powers. They would mess with your daily life, and in some severe cases just take them away.
Yeah.
And that's part of like the plot in the story. And in a 5th edition, with it just being oaths, it kind of removes gods. Like, gods exist, you can choose to follow gods, but it's no longer a part of what makes them a paladin or a cleric or so on.
Oh, I see what you're saying now. Yeah, and I agree with you, actually. It does seem like 5th edition, they pulled back on the religiosity a bit. And I see what you're saying. And I agree. It does, it does seem that's, I mean, I wouldn't even say seem. You can definitely tell that they did pull back on the religiosity of 5th edition compared to like 3.5 and older versions of D&D. But of course, the neat thing about D&D is being a forum for creativity. The DM can always find ways to interject that back into the sessions. And yeah, that's the cool thing about this format is like, you can do whatever you want, and as long as you're trying to craft a fun story and fun experience for the players, they'll follow you wherever you want to lead them.
Yeah, I think it's just hard with player expectation, because like when they look at something, they kind of get an idea in your mind, and then you kind of had an idea in your mind, and then as the storyteller, you say it in the way that you envision it, and they're like, that's not how I was reading it. That's not what I expected. And I don't like doing that to players. I try to avoid doing that.
Yeah.
So on the same kind of, this is a nice segue into another interesting question, which is, do you have any hot takes about 5th Ed or any edition of D&D for that matter?
Although this was specifically for 5e, he said in chat that he had some 5e hot takes.
No, I know. I want to hear his 5e hot takes, but I also want to hear if he has any hot takes for 3.5, since that's what he started with.
Well, if you want to start with 5th, we can say that they simplified a lot of things for people. They took a big step back, and I feel like a lot of people appreciated the simplification of it. And as a person who's appreciated the complexity of what D&D was, even in its simplicity, it felt like having that whole basis change, I didn't like it at all. I felt like when I tried to join new 5th edition player groups, it was a lot of storybooking. And I don't normally have a problem with that. I like to sit down with friends and run the Curse of Strahd or whatever the adventure is at the time. But like when I'm doing campaigns and I'm sitting down with people that with a story that's going to go on for months and like even years in some points,
Yeah.
I wanna have a story that we're making,
I get you.
and that fell off in 5th edition for me.
No, I agree. They
never
did. I mean, I wouldn't even say that. I wouldn't say that's a hot take, just because they purposely said when they designed 5th Ed, they wanted to simplify it to bring more players to it, and they did that on purpose. But I actually agree with you. I kind of get the sense that you indirectly just said that you prefer like 3.5 because of its complexities. Would that be an accurate statement?
Yeah, but even for 4th edition, I hold 3.5 and 4th edition close, with 3.5 being the superior.
All right, now that's a hot take.
Because you have a balance of skills and choices in your character creation and through all the different feats. 3.5 just did it right. It's
no, I agree with you on the 3.5 part. The fact that you even said that 4th E is anywhere near 3.5 to me is the hot take. I like 5th Ed, but I prefer 3.5. But 4th E is hot garbage to me.
For 4th edition, I found that I had to expand my universe. There is a lot of stuff out there for 4th edition that actually made it so much better, because it's just the lack of feats. It's the lack of little things that made 4th edition less liked by people. And if you expand upon that, if you reopen it up to people, it has a fair skill list. Like you have choices between the different things that you can choose from. There are paths you can take that are different. If you want to be a battle cleric or a healer cleric, there's like, you can mix and mash as you're going along. There's so much you can do. And
Gotcha.
just to drop one more, I feel like for a hot take, I've already slammed the fact that paladins have been downgraded, warlocks have been downgraded. If you want to talk about wizards and their spell books, that's been absolutely just like torn left, right, and center. We can do rogues whose backstabs have always been what a rogue is. Like, they do treasure, they see things, they find things, they're sneaky, and they backstab.
Yeah.
So, and like, I feel like they focus so hard on the backstab that's why people want to play a rogue, right? But then they lose everything else. I feel like it's all backstab when you're playing rogues now. Like, that's all it is.
And the irony is thick. You're right about that, 100%. But the irony is thick that in 3.5, you could sneak attack with all of your attacks instead of just one of your attacks. Like in 5th Ed, they made it so that you can only sneak attack with one of your attacks if you have multiple attacks. But in 3.5, as long as you were in a flank position or were unseen, right, invisible or shadowed or whatever, then all of your attacks in that round were sneak attacks. And so
that is true.
Yeah, 3.5, but it took a lot longer to get there. To be a decently powerful rogue, you had to be much higher level to really start to see those rewards. But 100%, you're right that the cool thing about rogues in 3.5 is that they were all about the skills, right? Being able to do so much for the party. But now, because they simplified all the skill sets of 5e, almost anybody can, like, you could actually have a party without a rogue, and several different party members can take up the slack of those lack of skills for finding traps, for getting disarming traps, for unlocking doors. There's you're 100% right about that part. Yeah.
Havoc says, wasn't it just called backstab then too?
Probably.
No, I think it was just called, in 3.5 it was sneak attack. But yeah.
Sneak attack, yeah.
But I mean, it's basically a backstab, yeah. But nowadays it's backstab. Is it my turn next? Or no, that was me. So you're up next, right, Druid?
Yeah. So this is a super off-topic question, but Random Cosmic Horror wants me to ask it every single time.
We love him
is,
for it too.
yeah, we love him for it. Barefoot gang or nah? Are you one of those? Are you one of us where shoes make you want to die? Or
I feel very on the spot.
You can be honest. No one's gonna judge you except her. I'm just kidding.
Outside, I wear shoes. I like shoes.
it's
So
okay.
you're nah. I'm not a barefoot gang. Yeah.
I'm gonna go with nah. I live in Canada. That is the feeling I want. So.
Yeah, I feel that. I'm halfway in between. Like when I'm in the house, if it's a carpeted house, I would be 100% barefoot all the time. In this house, because we have these really shiny floors, I wear socks, right? But I don't wear shoes in the house. We don't wear shoes in the house. But outside, I'm like with you. I got to wear shoes if I'm outside. I don't want to be stepping on gross stuff or stuff that might injure me.
Druid's shaming us in her head right now. She's just like,
Okay.
shoes.
Yeah,
I can hear
gross.
that old YouTube video. Shoes.
Shoes.
She truly is the goblin girl. She doesn't need no stinking shoes.
I only wear them because I have to.
If your
They tell
job
me I
would let
can't.
you go barefoot, would you be barefoot?
Yeah, but they'll let me wear my toe shoes, which is super cool.
What was
Which
that?
is like they let me wear my toe shoes.
Toe shoes? Is it like, sandals basically?
They're shoes, but they have the toes like toe socks, but they're shoes.
Interesting.
You've never
Okay.
seen
Cool,
my
cool.
toe shoes?
Oh.
I just threw away my ratty ass pair that I've had for like 6 years that were falling apart and smelled like death.
I've tried on the hand shoes or whatever you call them before. Feels so weird the first time you put them on. Like I wasn't ready.
I love them. I love them so much.
So-
Really quick though, before we move on, Havoc just says, I missed the custom percent where you got to assign how much points went to each skill. I don't know what that means. If you guys want to elaborate.
Percentage roll.
I think I don't know about percent, but I know that with 3.5, each class had a certain number of points that they would get based upon, their primary, like they would get a certain number of points per level that they get to put. I'm not sure what he's talking about for percent though. Maybe he's talking about really old school. It's been a while, like AD&D. I don't remember the percentage for skills. Maybe it's starting to come back to me. Maybe that's what he's talking about from like old school AD&D, or even before that, the BX set. Maybe he's probably talking about the BX set.
No, he's saying second rogues.
Second edition? Second edition used percentages for the skills? Really?
Yeah, wasn't your D&D hiatus was through second edition, right?
Yeah. I mean, I did play second edition a little bit, and I also played all of the Baldur's Gate 3, or not Baldur's Gate 3, the Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 series, which were second edition. But of course, the computer handled it all. So, I remember that now from second edition, and like even from AD&D and the old BX stuff, those skills were percentage based. That's right, and you had these charts where your skill would go up a certain percentage. You'd have a certain percent that you would roll for those kinds of things, and even like magic resistance in AD&D was a percentile dice. So like there was a monster, one of my favorite monsters was the Skeleton Warrior, and it had 90% magic resistance, which means that anytime someone hit it with magic, you rolled a percentile dice, and as long as you rolled, under 90%, it just ignored the magic.
That's cool.
Wow. Thanks for the... Sorry. Havoc is a little bit older like me, a little more seasoned, and he helped me remember some of my past. Like that was lovely.
As soon as you see Stormy perk up, he's about to get into it. He's just like,
And he gets
Launches
closer to
up.
the screen. He gets closer to the screen when it's something that he's like, yeah. He'll get close. It's very great. You have the next one from Cinder.
From Cinder. Yeah, Cinderfall. By the way, welcome back again, Cinder. It's always fun having you. You're one of our new regulars, and I appreciate you. Has there ever been a time anyone has had a scenario where the oppression of choice and making curated disaster situations had more of an impact than where there's many more options? I'm going to try and I think I understand the question he's asking. Has there ever been a time, like for all of us, where we had a scenario where, like, I'm not sure what this curated. Oh, I think I sort of see what he's saying. So, where a curated disaster situation kind of took away your choice, and you know, did it have, because of that situation, did it have more of an impact than it would have if there were more options? You know, like narratively. Like, we'll start with you. That's a tough one. Or if you want, I'll go first.
I think I might need you to start that one for me.
Okay. So I would say, both as a DM and a player, I've experienced it from both sides. I have used situations like what you're talking about, Cinderfall, because I wanted the combat encounter to take on a narrative flavor, instead of just your traditional, you know, you're going to fight these monsters and whoever's rolls better wins, right? And so sometimes it's good to throw something like that in to craft a unique experience for the players, but you don't want to be heavy-handed with that kind of thing, because they'll feel like they're being railroaded if you do it all the time. And that's like one of the worst things you can do as a DM, is make your players feel like they never have a choice. You know, it's okay to sometimes put them in situations where there's really no choice, right? Because as long as it fits the narrative and it's going to have an emotional impact, then it can make sense. But again, you have to be you can't be spicy with it. you gotta just maybe do a little pinch here and there, as long as it fits the story and where you're trying to go. Yeah, I hope that answers his question. What do you think?
I did a trial run. I showed you guys A Song of Ice and Fire, the Game of Thrones tabletop game. I used that to make my own basis for a Walking Dead tabletop RPG. So when I first ran that, it was like almost a sandbox little town, and I made every individual shop, all that little things, and there was a hospital. And I figured, in a hospital, a hospital in a small town during a zombie apocalypse, this is going to be a hot zone. Eventually, the players end up going there, and there's this guy who was trying to control zombies. He had this helmet that he wore, and he was tinkering and doing science stuff. And they made it to the top. They eventually found this guy, and they could handle this in a lot of different ways, because he was a madman for to some extent, but he was having some success for what he was doing. So they had to react to this kind of scenario in the way that they thought was best. And they ended up letting this guy live. So they let this guy live. And at the end of the story, it had a big ramification, because he ended up perfecting his helmet and hoarding all the zombies in the city and turning them into a force to try to break out of the city and start a pandemic, take over the world kind of deal. And so the whole town was surrounded by military. They were locked down after day 5, and they had to deal with the guy with the helmet first. So they went in and they dealt with him, but the guy ended up worshiping one of our characters, because one of our characters was a little girl, and her only thing was that she was friends with zombies, and like they didn't want to either, but she lacked a lot of other things. And he ended up giving her the helmet and worshiping her as like the leader of all these zombies. And then they tried to use that force to break out of the town and all that stuff. So something as small as like letting this character that potentially had a lot of control of the story, but then they took that and amplified it 10 times over by making a more diplomatic decision.
That's pretty good. That kind of reminds me of the first example, not the only example, but the first example that comes to mind where I did something like that for in Isles of the Mist. You remember that fight, that Druid, that you guys had where you're basically out in the middle of the wasteland in the field, and this undead horde started to surround you guys.
And we had to leave.
What was that?
And we left. I had to, right?
Well, yeah, no. So what happened was basically I crafted the scenario where it was a no-win scenario, but narratively it was a way for Starkitty's character to awaken one of her powers that helped you guys. You basically hid yourselves in her pocket dimension. And so I crafted the situation to be a Kobayashi Maru. Basically, if they tried to actually win, if they tried it was kind of an impossible situation. But so they ended up like using wall of stone to craft a little stone hut, basically. And they used it to defend themselves. But over time, the enemy kept cracking it and they were getting through it. And eventually, they took out a lot of the enemy force, and they took out some powerful lieutenants. And but they had to get the hell out of Dodge. And so it made the encounter a really interesting, like I said, I don't want to use that kind of heavy-handedness too often, but in this instance, narratively, it fit what was going on, and it made for a really, I mean, you tell me, Drew, did it make for an emotionally impactful kind of scary moment?
Yeah, it was very scary. I was like, ooh, we're gonna die. This isn't good. I was so ready because with Fate and Lorcris, his character was just like destined for death that whole entire campaign.
I know. He just kept going down every time. He went unconscious so many times.
Yeah, he just was edging death the entire time.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, well, we're actually gonna have a funeral.
Yeah. So Druid, your ultimate wish to one day have a character that dies a heroic death. I'll say this, it's super hard to pull off in 5e, because that's one other thing this is my hot take on 5e, and that's that they really made it too hard to kill characters. Not that you want to kill characters, right? But the fact that for a character to die, you either have to double their hit points in the negative, right? Or they have to fail 3 death saving throws. Now, technically speaking, you can have monsters go after them while they're down, which forces more death saving throws. And you could even argue that there's a way to do that narratively where it makes sense. But I feel like that a lot of if you do that, the player is going to feel like you're targeting them to die. And so, once a character's down, if there are other characters that are still a threat on the board, then the enemies are going to go after those threats. That's the way I play them. Although, realistically speaking, a monster that was super evil probably would try and coup de grace. And narratively, I did actually do that with Riley. Yeah.
Fuck you! I'm so mad at you for that.
But it made you for a great experience, right?
Yes.
So there you go.
But still, you came in and fucking coup de grace Rylar, the most innocent sweet baby ever. How dare you?
But you got to meet Goo because of it.
No, we did get to meet Goo.
Goob.
Goo, the great old one. So Rylar, the NPC in the Isles of the Mist, he was a warlock of Goo. He of the great old one. But he was not very bright. In fact, he was really rather dense. But he believed he was a cleric of goo, and that's what he called him. I'm a cleric of goo. Blessings of goo upon you. And goo was that. A great old one. And the great old one that he was of was the original progenitor of beholders. This is my own take on beholders, by the way, obviously. But yeah, so that was what his comedy shtick was. He was this not very bright kid, but he had that kind of Forrest Gump wisdom, and he was very charismatic. And he thought he was a cleric of goo, but he was actually just a warlock, which is why he couldn't heal anybody.
So, Druid, that picture you were showing us, it looks like a butterfly, and that makes for a very cool optical illusion. Imagine a butterfly floating around, then it turns into like a demonic eye of like an ancient old god.
Yeah.
That'd be
She
cool.
drew it pretty darn well. It was basically in the moment that Rylar got coup de grace, basically like a rip in space-time happened in front of them, and this giant eyeball came out of the rip in space-time with all these tendrils, these thin tendrils coming out of it, and that's what she drew.
Yeah, and that was the first time we saw the thread of fate that was like connecting all of our characters too.
Yeah, Havoc says some of my players might disagree. What were you referring to?
How easy it is to kill off players.
Really?
Oh yes, that reminds me. Druid, can I please be the first to kill you? Just come join me. It'll be my pleasure.
I've got something planned for her in the future.
He's like, you're not taking this from
Yeah.
today.
Wounding 1 minute, no heals, great effect. Havoc goes out of his way to try to kill his players, though.
Wounding 1 minute, no heals. Yeah, that is pretty cruel. Wow.
Because he's like running like 500 campaigns, and he's just like, I'm gonna just kill him off. Fuck it.
He's got to finish him somehow. Sorry, I'm just kidding, Havoc. I'm just giving you a hard time, buddy.
No one is safe.
So, SirVivalistGaming. I love that. I want to share with you that it's something that I kind of noticed and realized from the previous interview that we had with you, and we kind of talked about it some. That you have this like myself, a fan. You seem to be a fan of the medieval fantasy, the knights in shining armor kind of thing, which is why you do the survivalist thing, and you have your table. I forget what it was called.
The obsidian table.
The obsidian table. Thank you. Yeah. Just like I have the infinity table and you have the obsidian table, and they're obviously knockoffs of the round table, but it's cool. Like, what first bit of media did you consume as a kid that made you fall in love with medieval fantasy? Do you remember that?
Oh man, you're gonna hit my brain somewhere deep.
That's what we're here for.
Power Rangers, does that count? I don't know.
Yes.
That's borderline sci-fi.
Which one did you say?
Power Rangers.
Oh, okay. Speaking of, I think last time we had your interview, I recommended you try watching the 1977 movie Excalibur. Have you had a chance to watch it yet?
I have not.
Okay.
I'm watching Invincible right now, and I'm hooked. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah. Invincible's a lot of fun. Yeah. Well, when you get a chance, it's
still on my list.
That 2 hours is worth your time. You'll be like, oh my God, this is awesome. It'll spark all kinds of fun stuff in your head.
I forgot about the existence
I've
of
always just loved
Camelot.
that though. The story of the hero, like even like young King Arthur. Like I can picture all the different cartoons and the movies where that little soldier warrior just has the heart to pull out the victory, even though they had nothing else besides the heart. And that's just something I've always tried to be in my everyday life. So
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Havoc. Hell yeah, buddy. Like, Excalibur is my number 2 favorite movie of all time, and it used to be number 1 until The Matrix came out, and like there's something about The Matrix that just speaks to the philosopher in me, and but
He got sucked into the Matrix.
yes, I did. The Matrix has a hold of me completely, but I liked the second. I liked all the sequels, but the first one, hands down, just phenomenal celluloid right there.
So when I was little, I'm sure many people have noticed. I struggle with reading. It's very obvious when I try to read chats out loud and stuff like that. I've always really, really struggled with reading, and I had to do like summer school for it and do like a bunch of programs to just be able to just like get it working when I was little. Like it. But then once it clicked and I understood, like, oh, okay, I get it. I get how reading works now. I was gifted this book series called The Warriors. And if you don't know what The Warriors is you start off following this. It's all about cats, and you are following Rusty, the cat. He was a house cat, but he had this like call to the woods, but he was a kitten. And then he goes finally like jumps the fence and he leaves the 2 legs and he goes out there and he ends up getting in a tussle with another cat and he gets brought in, and then like there's like this whole story, like epic story about like with magic and like clanships and like all that kind of stuff. Like for me, that was like my first bit of like that really like first bit of media that got me sucked into the concept of like magic and like and
like fantasy.
Yeah. But it was cats that did it.
Huh, right on.
That wasn't like a Disney movie, you know, but like I remember just being like so like what? How could these cats want to sit on pile of bones? Because it's cool. Of course they're gonna call the devils from it. Yes.
Your kitties hit my memory core. I know what my first movie was. It was The Black Cauldron.
Oh yeah, that's a great one, dude. I have it queued up on Plex right now to rewatch. Oh my God, such a great movie. Yes, and The Sword in the Stone too. On that same note, The Black Cauldron and The Sword in the Stone. Both of those are fantastic. Those are what I watched as a kid to really dig, to get to be drawn into, you know, Arthurian legend and medieval fantasy, and then yeah, man, that's awesome.
I was just gonna say it's like the 2 renditions. It's like mania and dementia for like Excalibur when you look at Black Cauldron and then you look at The Sword in the Stone.
Yeah,
for sure.
What was that one movie where you got sucked into the books? That's The Cauldron. No,
sucked into books.
So it starts. Yeah, so
that's the Page Master, isn't it?
There you go, the Page Master.
That's another good one. Yes.
Yeah, that one traumatized me when I was a kid. I was so afraid. That one scared me so bad.
It's an emotional movie. They hit us hard back in the day. They had The Fox and the Hound. They hit us with all those things. I can't even watch that today. Like
you bring it up and I start tearing up. Like I'm like, I'm gonna cry. Oh fuck.
I mean, it wouldn't be the first time you did that on Bandwidth and Banter. It would be the first time on Legacy of Loremasters.
It would be the first time. If I cried right now, that would be the first on Legacy of Loremaster. No. But oh my goodness. Wow. Does anybody else have any more D&D questions? Do you have
any more D&D questions from the audience or from Sir?
Of course, I had a couple more stuff deep into my head. All right. So, and this is a combined question for both Stormy and Druid, so this one should be entertaining. If you had to combine the best features from both of your fantasy selves into one character, what do you think would come out? Who is the fantasy character that exists between Druid and Stormy?
Oh, if we were to smash us together and make a fantasy character?
Yes. right? It's scary at first.
Wow. Okay. I'm curious to hear what her answer is.
So it would be an average-sized human. I'm just kidding. I don't know.
Oh, she's being facetious there. I was like, what?
Because I was doing a playoff of all the short jokes. Like,
You're not that short, Druid.
well, you're good to see in person.
Yeah.
Oh no, I feel like this was one that we should have been prepared with.
It's a good one.
Definitely chatty, because Stormy and I are both chatty. I feel like we would both be a chatty bard, like. I don't know, Stormy. What do you think?
You want to ponder it? If you're having trouble and you ponder it, I have an idea.
Okay.
Shoot it.
We would be a dragon, but a dragon that has shapes themselves into a little goblin, a wise little merchant goblin that goes around helping people with selling them items that are way more powerful than they should be. Than they should be having at that time, telling them, "Oh, this is a nice +1 sword. You'll be fine with this." When it's like Black Razor or something, we would be the this dragon, like, and then occasionally we would turn into the dragon form and help them when they really needed it. I don't know. I was just
gonna say, it would be pretty funny if you, as a goblin, you forgot you were a dragon. And then every once in a while, you just like sneeze and be a dragon.
Like, turn into one. I love that.
And it'd be like, achoo!
Suddenly craving hot Cheetos.
It's a great question.
Man, that was so good. Yeah, no, I like that because Stormy is a dragon. I'm a goblin. So that would be the perfect combination.
That was a good one.
I've been struggling with my mic all day. It was my fault. I was trying to adjust it so the bird. But
why? What's wrong with the mic? It's fine.
It keeps falling over and it's annoying me. And
it's not tightened up enough.
No, my stupid hand that doesn't want to cooperate. Anyways,
it's okay to get the boys in the house to twist the lid. It's all right.
Okay. Can I hit you guys with something else?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So, I was pondering for my channel something I could create that was on the creative side, that I could give back to people that subscribe to me. Because I it's honestly a generous action that people take, and I just wanted to give something back. So I came up with something called the Adventurer's Run. And that's where if you survive, you come out to the channel, your character that you create, essentially almost D&D style, but it can be more fantastic. It can be anything from a Sith Lord to a slug. It can be whatever you want it to be.
Right.
So it's been a living story on my channel now for a while. And characters have come and gone and flown, and it's been such an awesome experience. Mm-hmm. And I feel like it'd be really cool to have something that could really showcase a lot of the Stormkeep streamers and the people that are around Stormkeep and being the awesome people that they are. And I know as a DM that you would have a fantastic ability to really showcase all of that. So my question, and this is kind of focused towards Stormy at this point, is do you think that you would ever dedicate to writing about an evolving story involving the people of Stormkeep, almost a D&D session that's just of your own volition?
That's a neat idea. I love it. I would say that I'm just going to be straight up honest. If I could find the time, I would love to do something like that. But it comes down to
I just
a time
need to make sure
commitment
that
when I had so many things going on. But what, Druid?
Yeah, there's just a couple of points that we just need to make sure are canon. The personal quarters in Stormkeep are on the 6th floor. The dining hall is on the 2nd floor. The hot tub and sauna are on the 3rd floor. I am on level 8. The basement level has the teleport circle, and the sub level is at 360. Sub level is the dungeons. These are all things that we've been keeping track of for the castle. So those are the only things that I request to be canon.
Oh, okay. Okay, gotcha.
Okay.
But I kind of like where he's going. He's being more in depth, like to do something like that for all of the streamers of Stormkeep and just in general all the Stormkeepers, everybody. I think it's a wonderful idea. But I don't want to steal your idea. I would totally not want to steal your idea. That's cool that you do that on your channel.
I was curious what you were going to say, because my real point was, with all of your D&D sessions, your one-shots, your sessions where you get to do short adventures, have you ever considered recording them? Like, there's an app that I used to do when I was arguing with my girlfriend. I'd put it on and it would just record everything that was said, and just in case there was ever a point where, like, you said this, I'm like, I feel like a tool like that for a D&D session, you could capture a lot of awesome stories that you'd be able to share, and then you wouldn't have to spend so much time in the thought process of it. And I'm sure a lot of people would love to go through that and hear it, but
like the behind the scenes, him thinking, like crafting.
Imagine it like this: you get the fun of all your D&D, or you just things that you're said, the locations, the monologue, all that. Now you could read through it and build yourself a story that kind of is shaped by Stormy at that point. So kind of like the final telling.
Interesting. I will consider this.
I'm just brainstorming out here.
No, it's cool
today.
I love it.
Speaking of brainstorming, we're getting close to where we need to wrap up. So what I'd like to ask you now from you is, if you could be any fantasy creature, what would you choose and why?
Any fantasy creature?
Yeah, like from D&D, or any, it doesn't have to be specifically D&D. It could be from another TTRPG or another fictional, any fantasy creature, but not one that's like a already named, like, you're not going to be Jaime Lannister or anything like that, right?
Parthenax.
Yeah, like a fantasy creature of some kind. What would you choose and why?
I want to be an enchanted weapon.
Ooh.
I feel like the story of an enchanted weapon gets told 1,000 times with 1,000 different adventurers. I feel like still being powerful, mysterious, like all that good stuff.
That's great. That's a great answer. I like that, because that enchanted, like, artifact weapon, that intelligent weapon gets to be the storyteller, the bard of the party in a way, because it's going to live on for other adventurers and be able to share the stories of the previous adventurers, to share in its wisdom. I love that. And it fits you.
The forever Rickroll.
When in doubt, Rickroll. Okay. That's well said. And that's a perfect place to leave off. My man, the time has flown by so quickly, but I really appreciate you.
No, it's over.
I know.
Oh my God, it's been a lot of fun.
But don't worry, we'll be hanging out and spending time in the streams in the river of Twitch, and potentially maybe in the future, if your schedule changes, maybe we can figure out something for some D&D, or at the very least, we can also play some more Magic in the future. I'm just glad that we met you, and thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you to Skyrim. Random raids. Let's go.
All right.
Either way, yes, it's a blessing to be out here with y'all, run some awesome interviews, and you guys, a personal close spot to my heart today with D&D, and I look forward to playing Magic the Gathering, and I really hope at some point our D&D worlds collide, because I'd just love to see how those paints fill the paint board,
Yeah.
Ditto. Well said, my artist of a DM. Well said, sir. Good night. Oh, wow. My goodness, Druid. This time just zoomed by, and we filled it with such amazing stories and a treasure trove of knowledge.
Yes.
Yes. Fitting. Speaking
Very
of
much so.
treasures, tomorrow night on Bandwidth and Banter, we have the wonderful and beautiful Toto Kitty. I'm super looking forward to chatting with her. She's a streamer in the circle and a good close friend of Rhubarb, who we've had on the show previously. Twice exactly. Yeah, and no, we had her on once. I think we have her scheduled. We haven't shared this though. We have her scheduled for her return. For her return to Bandwidth and Banter. Rhubarb will be coming later this year. It's okay. Spoiler alert's all right. Toto Kitty's going to be awesome. I can't wait. And then don't forget that Druid tomorrow afternoon is going to be on her Discord hosting a watch party of Delicious in Dungeon.
Correct.
And then Saturday, internet permits, we're going to be playing some more Dragon Metal Saga. So
If I don't get it, I'm going to lose my goddamn mind.
trust me, I'm feeling like last week hit me hard. I'm only just now recovering from it. But that's all we got tonight. You ready to wrap this up with a bow?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for coming to the show.
Please drop a like, subscribe, and comment down below.
And if you're listening to the podcast,
Please rate and review the episode.
we are Bandwidth.
And Banter.
Thank you.
And good night.
Good night.